Alright, what's up guys? New video today, and I've been very excited to make this one. This one is a full, total, honest review of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. I've been playing this game for quite some time now. It's been, I want to say over a month that I've been playing, right around a month. I've gotten to Platinum multiple times with multiple decks. I've played through the story mode. I've built multiple decks, and I pretty much have played this game quite a bit since the beginning. I finished the Battle Pass, and I think I can honestly give a completely fair review on this game, everything that it needs to improve, everything that's very good about it, and I am more than ready to get started. If anything, please like the video. These videos take just a few minutes to watch, but they literally take hours to make, and they only take a second to like. So like the video if you can, but let's not waste too much time. Let's get started. Right off the bat, why do we need this game? Right? That's the number one question that we have to answer, is why does this game even exist? What is the history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Dueling simulators? Why do we need this? So Yu-Gi-Oh! has had a pretty interesting sort of history with dueling simulators. So the first dueling simulator was back, you won't believe this, but it was actually way back in 2004. It was called Yu-Gi-Oh! Online. It was actually kind of like a burner phone for Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically, what you did was you bought this USB, plugged it into your computer, and then basically had 60 duels available on it. And then after that expired, you would have to buy another one, or you would have to pay or upgrade your service in some sort of way. It was almost like a cell phone company. It was really odd, but that existed for about a year, and then that failed. Since then, there hasn't really been a strong first-party dueling simulator available. You had stuff like Dueling Generations on mobile. That ended, I want to say, 2 years ago. You had Duel Links, which has obviously had tons of popularity, but Duel Links, of course, nothing like regular Yu-Gi-Oh! It's half the life points. You only get to put 3 cards on 3 monsters on the field. It's a completely different game. It's nothing like regular TCG Yu-Gi-Oh! And then, of course, you had all of the various video games that came out over the years. The only issue with the video games is, of course, that they all are dated to a certain time period. They aren't constantly updating. So even though there are games that are fantastic, like Soul of the Duelist and Tag Force, for example, they do become dated because they don't constantly update with various new cards, and that's kind of the drawback of them. There has never really been a good first-party Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG game. Now, of course, there have been third-party versions. So you have stuff like EDO Pro, YGO Pro, stuff like Dueling Nexus, totally free website. You don't even have to download anything. You won't get a virus. You just go on there and you play. You can play any deck you want. And that's the question. Does this beat all of those dueling simulators? Does this replace all of those dueling simulators? Does it replace something like Dueling Book, stuff that's been used by the competitive side of the game for years? Does it replace that? And that's what we'll hopefully answer throughout this. Like I said, I basically have done everything in this game. I've platinum multiple times. I've gotten to platinum 1, lost my rank, it's been quite a showing. But yeah, let's talk about everything. Let's not waste too much time. Let's get into the very first part of this game, which is dueling. So from a visual standpoint, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel is by far the best dueling simulator we have ever seen. I mean, it's crazy how the cards just slam down onto the field, how the ultra rare monsters have their own animations, the fact that you can interact with all of the background stuff. You can interact with like your dueling characters. You can interact with all of the backgrounds, and they do all types of crazy stuff. The animations are beautiful. The chaining, like I said, the background, the dueling spirits are cool. All of them have their own various animations. That part of the game is absolutely fantastic. I love the aesthetics of this game. It's beautiful. It's as good of a dueling simulator as we are ever going to see. And of course, they're going to release tons of new stuff. They're going to release more sleeves. They're going to release more backgrounds. They're going to release probably more of these dueling pals. All of this stuff is just going to keep evolving and getting better and getting better and getting better. And a lot of the cosmetics in this game, all things considered, they're actually fairly priced. They're not that bad in terms of how much money you have to put into them. Honestly, if you want a nice looking field, you pay like $3-4 and you've got yourself a nice looking field. Or you can just play the story mode, or just play or unlock some various things in the solo mode, and you can get a nice looking dueling field and a nice buddy, and they give you a lot of stuff for free. So in terms of the aesthetics, this game is absolutely beautiful. It is about as good as it's ever been, and I think it's pretty much as good as it'll ever be. Of course it can be improved. Like right here, we have a Thunder Dragon Titan slamming onto the field. You've got that beautiful animation. It looks absolutely fantastic. One of the best things about this game is, of course, the visuals. Now, next we've got, of course, the music. Now, the music all in this game is absolutely fantastic, especially in the story mode. You've got the chapter where you play against the monarchs, and that has some of the craziest music I've ever heard. I mean, I can't even believe that's just in a standard, regular old Yu-Gi-Oh game. I can't believe there's such amazing music. Let's give it a quick listen here. I mean, yeah, that music is absolutely like mind-blowingly good. I can't even believe it. It's so epic. It sounds like something in the final episode of an anime. That is some incredible, incredible music. Now, for the rest of Dueling, let's head over here to Rank Duel. So they'll show you basically how Rank Duels work. This is basically the stronger the more you win, the better you get. Actually, I like this ranking system a lot. I think this ranking system is fantastic. As far as ranked duels go, it's great. I mean, you win, you rank up, you lose, you rank down. It's completely fair. It almost reminds me like of an old Halo game or something of that sort. It's just extremely fair. It's very skill based. I like the ranking system a lot. I wish that there was other stuff to do. I wish that there was, for example, a unranked mode, like mode just for like casual players to use casual decks. If you want to try out a weird build or an Exodia deck, you don't have to risk losing your rank to be able to play it. That would be pretty cool. There's a lot of players that just aren't that great, and basically everything rookie through gold is a cakewalk. If you're a competent Yu-Gi-Oh player, it's extremely easy to get to platinum. It's extremely easy. Even in the last season, it was pretty easy to get into platinum 1 as long as you're playing one of the tier 2 decks. You can pretty much get to platinum 1 with your eyes closed. So that part of the game is kind of weird. I wish that they would add a mode of the game where you could play and it not be ranked, but you could still earn something. You can still earn some gems just by playing every single day. You don't have to just constantly win. That would be a sort of a nice thing in the game. But overall, the actual ranked part of the game I like quite a bit. Now, if you haven't already noticed, the dueling in this game is a 1 out of 1, and also basically it is an OCG list. Now, that has positives and negatives, right? The meta is extremely diverse. There are so many different decks that you can play. You could probably get to platinum with like 30-40 different decks fairly easily. Like, I'm not even saying you have to put a lot of effort. If you learn one of those 40 top decks, you basically can get to platinum. It's really not difficult at all. A lot of decks are very, very good. One other thing is that there isn't any side decking in this, so you basically have to you're forced to main deck stuff like Lightning Storm. You're forced to main deck stuff like Harpy's Feather Duster, because if you don't, you're basically going to lose to Skill Drain and Macrocosmos and Vanity's Ruler. You're going to lose to just very, very strong floodgates. Also, you've got Maxi in the metagame. You can play only so many counters in this game. You can play counters for Maxi, you can play counters for floodgates, but you can't just fill your deck with counters to every single situation. And that's kind of an annoying part of the game, is that there's so many blowout cards. Especially when you get to platinum, there are so many people playing Maxi and floodgates, you can't possibly counter everything. So the game gets a little bit weird. The other thing is there's really no side decking. Well, there's no side decking at all. So that becomes kind of an issue, where if you're playing against a very back row heavy matchup, you can't go, okay, cool, we're going to go to game 2 and I'm going to side in my Lightning Storms. You have to main deck the Lightning Storm. You have to main deck the Harpy's Feather Duster. You have to main deck Twin Twisters. You have to main deck all of this stuff right away. You can't wait for game 2, game 3 like you can in the regular TCG. You must have all of this stuff in your extra deck, and that does get a little frustrating. Also, a lot of cards that are very good in the TCG, so stuff like Raw Sphere Mode, stuff like, for example, Droll and Lockbird. These cards are very good in the TCG. In this particular game, they're pretty trash. I mean, there's no reason to play them because you don't know if your opponent's going to make a board of 3 monsters, so there's really no point to use a Raw Sphere Mode. If your opponent's using Eldritch, why in the world would you main deck a Raw Sphere Mode? In the end, you end up not playing Raw Sphere Mode. Same thing with Droll and Lockbird. Some decks search one time, some decks don't search at all. You're not going to main deck a Droll and Lockbird when you can just main deck an Ash Blossom or a Maxi, because the majority of people will at least search once, and the majority of people will at least special summon once. So it just becomes a situation with other hand traps just become better than these hand traps. And a lot of cards that are very, very, genuinely very good cards are actually totally useless, even though they're extremely good cards, just because there is no game 2, there's no game 3, there's no side decking, there's no counterplay. And that's kind of an issue when you're talking about testing skill long term in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because people could just bring FTK decks, Exodia decks, stuff like that into Platinum, and if you don't draw the right counterplay, or if you don't have the right counterplay in your main deck, you basically lose automatically. That is like a huge part of the dueling. That's a huge issue with the dueling in this game. But overall, very good, very, very good, very skill-based system. I would like to see maybe games 2 and 3 added in, at least as an option, just in the future of the game. Another sort of small issue that I have here is you have the free duel area. The problem with the free duel area, and this is something that I don't like about it, is the free duel area is cool, but honestly, I think that just because you aren't accumulating it, you're not getting any gems, you're not getting any rewards out of it, I think that you should be able to basically use whatever deck you want in it, like decks that you don't even own. This should be an area where you can just test things against other players. You're not earning anything, so there's nothing really on the line, but it would be nice if you could maybe play against some low-ranking computers or something like that, and you could just test decks that you don't own yet. Like if you see like, oh, I'm not really sure about maybe crafting a Crystal Wing, for example. You can go in here and see if Crystal Wing is better than Borreload Savage Dragon. You can test different decks out. That would be a cool option in the game, just so you could see like, yeah, I'm not really ready to commit to this deck, because I get a lot of people asking like, what deck should I make? What deck should I make? And it would actually be very, very beneficial if you can make a deck and then maybe go into this duel room right here and play it and see if it's worth building or not, because there are a lot of people that don't understand that certain decks are just not great fits for them. Certain decks are really difficult to play. Like for example, Prank Kids is a deck that every single turn during your opponent's turn, during your turn, you're basically playing for 2 minutes straight. That might seem pretty cool when you see it in a replay, but when you actually buy the whole deck and then you realize, oh crap, this is taking a really, really long time. I'd rather go play Eldritch, flip 2 cards, and pass my turn. This would be a cool area where you could try this out. Also, it would be nice if you could have, try out like Synchro combos, try out Blue Eyes combos, just try out various combos, record them, and then play them back with cards that possibly you don't even own yet, cards that possibly haven't even come out yet in the game, but at least you could test them out and then know when they come out, hey, is this something that I'm buying? Is this something that I can invest my gems, my crafting points into? That would be a cool option to have. Now, this is another cool area of the game. Is you've got replays, and replays are really, really cool. The only issue I've had with replays, again, the only issue is that you can only have 10 replays. This is way too little, honestly. 10 replays is just not enough. Those 10 replays are gonna fill up so quickly. And one of the most frustrating things is when you get a really, really cool replay and then the game just tells you, oh, you're out of storage space. That is one of the most frustrating feelings ever, because sometimes you have the most wild game. You go to save it, the game tells you you're out of storage space, and it's not like a game goes, okay, delete something and then you can save this one. No, the game's like, no, you absolutely cannot save anything. That game is gone forever. That's something that I don't like about the replay mode. I honestly think that it should be way more replays. I think 100 replays is more than fair, with the ability to delete them after you screw up. I think that would be really, really cool. Another issue with the game, and despite all of, there are so many decks that are viable in this game, seriously, so many different decks that you can play and get to Platinum with. While that part is really, really cool, the deck storage space is only 20 decks, so that is a very low number. If you are buying a lot of packs and you are building a ton of decks, that will fill up super duper quickly. And to be honest with you, Konami would want more people to build as many decks as possible. Konami should want this number right here, the 20 deck limit, to be 1,000 decks, because the more decks people build, the more money they're spending on the game. So this limit should really not even exist for any reason. This should be 1,000,000 decks. There shouldn't be a limit whatsoever on this. Konami should want us each to spend thousands of dollars and build thousands of decks. There's absolutely no reason why 20 decks is the complete limit to all of this. Especially considering that a lot of other dueling simulators, they really don't even have a limit to the amount of decks that you can build. As a matter of fact, there are free online dueling simulators that will let you build thousands of decks. I, for example, on Dueling Nexus, have easily over 100 different decks, different variants of the decks. Sometimes I'll change 1-2 cards in the decks, and I'll make an entire new deck because there's no consequence to it, and there really shouldn't be. And of course, in the situation of Master Duel, it's almost like you get 20 decks, and that's about it. All right, so next we are going to the shop, and this is going to be basically a review of all of the ways to acquire cards in Master Duel. Honestly, the card acquisition in Master Duel is actually totally fair. I think in terms of value, Konami gives you enough free gems where you can basically build 2 decks absolutely for free. You don't have to spend any money. You just acquire all of the gems from the solo mode and just logging in every single day, the tutorials, playing a little bit online. You can basically build 2 pretty competitive decks, extra deck included. That is something that's really fair. Also, you've got all of these various options. The packs are actually overall pretty good. This one is easily the most competitive of the packs. There are tons of competitive decks that you can build straight out of this. This one's more of a legacy pack. Again, this one is probably not as worth getting, just because a lot of these archetypes aren't complete. Stardust is incomplete. There's still new support that needs to come out. The Cyburst isn't complete, and Blue Eyes isn't complete. They're 3 decks that just are not complete yet, because there are cards that are released in the OCG and TCG that haven't been released here, so buying them is kind of pointless. This last pack literally has every single card available in the entire Master Duel set, which this is a little much. The other thing is their secret packs. I haven't unlocked any in a while, but secret packs basically are packs that you can acquire by crafting certain super rares or opening super rares from these packs, for example. Overall, the pack opening's pretty good. And then you've got these packs, which are the legacy packs, and these packs are rewards that you get for building. These are rewards that you get just for dueling and ranked. You can get tons of these. They're honestly most of the time absolutely terrible, and you get nothing good, as you can see here. And the other thing about these cards is you can't even sell these cards or dismantle these cards to get stuff that you actually need, and that's kind of a more frustrating thing. But basically, most of the times you'll open it and you won't get anything that is useful in any way. This is a somewhat of a useful card against the burn deck, but again, there's no side decking, so you wouldn't main deck that card. But yeah, overall, these packs usually are not going to end very well. They are generally pretty bad. Next, we've got the structure deck. Again, the structure decks are actually pretty good, especially the pendulum one, especially since the pendulum and the XYZ deck is very, very good. They give you the card list. You can see the structure deck content. It's almost like buying a structure deck, honestly, in real life. There are a lot of very good cards in this. You get Pot of Avarice. You get Utopia, which is a UR. You get the Ultimate Dragonic Utopia Future, which is very good. But yeah, you get a lot of really good cards in this particular structure deck, especially with the new XYZ event coming up. It's definitely something worth considering. For the accessories here, again, they're pretty well priced. 300 gems for this Dark Magician is really not that unreasonable. Some of them will look a little goofier than others. A lot of these dual fields, again, are actually fairly priced. They're really not, like, unbelievable. And again, you don't have to buy them, so it's very nice that they provide this for you. Basically, they're all fairly priced. This is just completely fairly priced. They're talking about 50 gems. You log in the game 2 times, you have 50 gems. It's nothing. You just complete a couple of daily missions, you have 50 gems. Everything here is actually fairly priced. Like, obviously, if you're focused more on dueling, you should definitely stick to the packs and the crafting, all that. But these accessories are not outrageously priced whatsoever. And the specials, of course, we've got the Duel Pass, extremely good deal. You should definitely buy the Duel Pass as fast as possible. It's the best deal in the entire game. It costs 600 gems, and I think you get 600 gems back, and you get a bunch of ultra rare crafting points and a bunch of other things like Pot of Greed and stuff. It's the best deal in the game, along with these bundle deals, because you get these staples that would have been otherwise almost extremely difficult to pull. Again, great value. I think overall the store is extremely fair. Now, the other side of the game, the other side of card acquisition is crafting. So here we've got the crafting points, the crafting system. So here we've got the crafting system, and basically what happens with the crafting system is you pick a card that you really like or you really want. For example, here we've got Harpy's Feather Duster. All you have to do is give up 3 ultra rares that you don't need, and then you can generate and ultra rare that you actually do need. So you basically just swap them out. Like for example, Harpy's Feather Duster is a very good card. Let's say I had 3 ultra rares that I pulled in other packs that were kind of useless. I didn't need them, and you can basically trade them out using this generation method. Same thing with the rares. Any rarity, commons, rares, super rares, and ultra rares, you can trade in 3 commons for a common that you want. You can trade in 3 rares for a common that you want. Basically, you can always do this. Also, there are higher rarities. So, for example, this one I can't trade away because this one I think came from a structure. Actually, this one came from the legacy packs. Those are the only cards that you cannot trade away, which is cards from the legacy packs. But basically, let's say, for example, right here, we have this fragile armor. Phantom Knights of Fragile Armor. As you can see here, this card is a higher rarity, so you actually get more points. So cards of higher rarity, you can trade 2 of them in to get a card that you actually want, and that actually is amazing with the ultra rares because you can really get a lot for them. But let's say I didn't need this Fragile Armor. It will give me 15 crafting points towards a rare, dismantle that, and now, for example, I can buy this Hextrude without ever having to go through the trouble of opening all of the packs that have Hextrude in them, which overall is a really, really, really fair system. Now, also, when you craft ultra rares and super rares, for example, I'll show you with this Harpy's Feather Duster. When you craft ultra rares and super rares, you get them right here, and then you also unlock a pack. So for this, for example here, I unlock Glory of Wings, which is the Harpy pack, and you get a free pack every single, whenever you craft a pack for the first time. Whenever you craft a card with that unlocks a pack, you get a free pack right off the bat. And right here, we got a pretty decent pack because it's shiny. But yeah, basically you get a free pack when you craft something like this. And we'll see what we pull here. We got a super rare. That's pretty cool. And we got a Harpy Lady #1. In a rare here. But yeah, basically you can unlock a free pack, and now this pack is unlocked. And if you go to the shop, this pack is fully unlocked, and you can buy as many as you want. This system is extremely fair. It's great for free-to-play players because you can craft things rather than opening pack after pack after pack and sinking thousands of dollars into acquiring gems that then have to buy packs. Honestly, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has such a large card pool that you couldn't possibly make people buy specific packs. They would literally have to spend thousands of dollars just to get any viable deck. This system is extremely, extremely fair. And what's great about the system is, since you unlock this archetype, and let's say you wanted to build Harpies, which Harpies is a cool deck. Let's say you wanted to build Harpies. You can now directly just purchase packs from this, and you will continuously pull Harpy cards that you want, rather than having to go to the store and just buying a bunch of random packs, unlocking a bunch of random stuff that you don't need. You actually will just continuously unlock Harpy cards if you want to build a Harpy deck. It stops you from having to go to the normal packs and buying this Master Duel Master card list, which has over 4,000. I didn't check the situation here, but I'm pretty sure this has over 6,750 cards. Could you imagine if we just only had to buy from this thing? If we wanted, for example, a Harpy deck, you could only buy from this. It would be terrible. The secret packs are one of the coolest systems that I've seen in any of these games. It really molds very well around the fact that Yu-Gi-Oh! Has so many cards and so many different archetypes. This is one of the better parts of the game. Alright, so next we're going to be talking about one of my favorite parts of the game, which is the solo mode. The solo mode is actually really, really cool in this game. Obviously, there's not like a huge story mode that spans the different games. You know, you don't get to meet Jaden and meet Yugi and then travel around the universe. It's nothing crazy like that. But the story mode is actually fairly good, or the solo mode, I should say, is actually fairly good for teaching not only new players the game, but giving returning players a lot of things to do. Some of them are a lot better than others. As you can see, I've completed some of them. I've sort of just cleared some of the others. Some of them are really, really, really fun and really, really, really good. Like, for example, Gladiator Beast was pretty fun. Shirinui was fantastic. Yugioh was actually really good. I think the loner deck that they give you has a Zeus. So the story mode basically goes something like this. You can enter the story mode. Let's say, for example, Gladiator Beasts. You can enter the story mode, and then it gives you various duels. It gives you a background on the archetype, which I think is pretty cool. As you can see here, they give you a background on the archetype. They give you a various amounts of arts from the archetype. Yu-Gi-Oh! Has some of the coolest artwork of any card game, And if you've ever looked at some of the artist renderings of a lot of these cards, they look fantastic. The artists put a ton of work into it. They do like maybe 5 or 6 different versions, different backgrounds, different positions for the cards, different poses. And a lot of that stuff doesn't get showcased in the actual game because we basically just get one single art of the card rather than a variety of artworks. Certain cards get different artworks like Blue Eyes and Dark Magician. A lot of the most popular cards get alternate arts, but a lot of cards just, they never even see anything. But what I like about this solo mode is that it really showcases, like if you're looking at the screen, look at these gladiator beasts. You get to see them in their full artworks in different positions. You get to see them in a variety of backgrounds. It looks really, really, really nice. Look at this full art card right here. This full out search card. It's beautiful. You get to see a lot of stuff. Gladiator Beast Return. You get to see a lot of cool versions of the artworks. The other thing that I really, really like about solo mode is that the archetypes that they actually chose, they could have easily just leaned into Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, Harpies, things from season 1. They could have done heroes. They could have just done a lot of anime decks, and I like that they didn't just do a lot of anime decks. As a matter of fact, there really isn't a single anime deck here. Every single one of these decks are TCG and OCG, kind of like card game exclusive archetypes that you wouldn't know unless you actually played the card game or you have tried playing the card game, which is really, really cool. There aren't any like big legacy decks here. A lot of these decks are decks that basically are only played in the card game, but what is positive about them is they cover a lot of the summoning mechanics of the game. You have something as simple as tribute summoning with the Monarchs. You have the Element Sabers, which use your graveyard effects. They're almost like a chaos deck. You've got a ritual deck with the Ruin and Demise. You have the Megaliths, which are also ritual decks. You have a fusion deck with the Gem Knights, a fusion deck with the Gladiator Beasts. Katakuri is a synchro deck, another synchro deck. Then you've got an XYZ deck, 2 of them as a matter of fact. Then you've got Pendulums. And then of course you've got this huge Link saga that includes all of the World Legacy cards, which is really, really awesome. It basically, if you are a new or returning player, you can go through the entire game, the entire history of Yu-Gi-Oh! Just by playing this, and you can learn how to do every one of these summoning mechanics without having a lot of pressure to learn them. It's such an easy way to learn a lot of the things that you've missed. If the last time you played Yu-Gi-Oh! Was 2004 and you just jumped into it now, this is fantastic. You play through the story, through the solo mode, and you basically get almost like a crash course in 15 years of Yu-Gi-Oh! All in the snap of your finger. So this part of the game was really cool. The archetypes that they chose were really, really cool. Some of them are obviously a lot more fun than others, but overall it's pretty cool. Now, I do have a few negatives for this. So, for example, if we load this up, one issue that I had is some of the loner decks that they give you really suck. One of the loner decks that I absolutely hated was one of the Demise and Ruin ones. This was one of the worst disparities between the 2 loner decks. So they gave the opponent the Queen, the King deck, and they gave you the Queen deck. And the problem with that is the deck that they gave you has a monster that's 2,900 attack and attacks twice, and the monster that they give them is 3,000 attack and destroys the entire field. So if you're just able to summon, if you're able to summon your monster and they summon their monster, it was very tough to out their monster. You had to like draw honest. It was a very complicated situation. Some of the loner decks have huge disparities between how good your deck is and how good your opponent's deck. That was actually something that was really annoying. The other thing that I really didn't like about the story mode is some of the prizing was really, really cool and some of the prizing was really terrible. So for example, you had some of these gates where you had to get these elemental orbs, and then you would basically click unlock and be able to get back to the next area. And one of the sometimes the rewards would actually just be more of these elemental elemental things. So you were basically using these elemental points to unlock more elemental points in later situations, which that was really frustrating. Sometimes you're on a roll too. You are on a huge roll, you like what you're playing. For example, I remember when I was playing Element Sabers, I'm like, this is pretty fun. I got to a point where I couldn't continue past this. I had to leave the area that I actually liked to go play areas that I didn't like as much. And in the end, I ended up not even coming back here. So that was another kind of frustrating thing. These orbs are just kind of pointless. I really don't see why we have them. It's completely valueless to have these orbs, because all it does is just sometimes make you leave areas that you like to go play areas that you maybe don't like. So these orbs I completely didn't like. I wish they were just removed from the games so we could just play whatever we want. As you can see here, you can duel and then acquire these orbs, which almost seems like an empty prize. I would literally rather get a random rare out of the archetype than get these elemental lures. Another cool prizing thing that you get out of this is you get basically like almost a starter deck. Every single one of these unlocks essentially a free starter deck, because after you're done with them, you basically get kind of like a loner deck. So here we've got the Synchro deck. Now this isn't like everything that they give you, but this is what you get for winning the Synchro challenge. Or this is what you get for completing the Synchro Shiranui chapter. Now not all of these cards are included. You don't get a Unizombie, you don't get the Glow Up Bloom, you don't get the Doom King Baller Drock, but you do get the rest of these cards. You get things like Shiranui Solitaire, you get things like Shiranui Spirit Master, you get things like Shiranui Swallow Slash. A lot of these this is actually a pretty good start to a Zombie World deck. It's really not a bad, kind of a free starter deck they give you. Now, a lot of these cards, as you can see, you can't dismantle. You have to keep these cards. You can't dismantle them and go buy other super rares. But it is cool that this deck is actually fairly strong. You get a lot of very, very good cards to basically start a Zombie World deck without having to invest in additional super rares. And basically, they give you a ton of different decks. Now, obviously, some of their solo decks are going to be pretty terrible, but for the most part, a lot of them are actually pretty good starts to the archetype. So if you really like one of these decks, you can jump right into it and start playing it in ranked. That's another cool feature of the solo mode. Now, one last part of the game that I'll talk about here is gem acquisition. I think gem acquisition is actually kind of fair in this game. They basically give you enough gems to play the game, to at least build 2 good decks, and then after that it gets a little steeper, and you have to do things like mission and solo and stuff like that. For example, you have these daily challenges here, like spectate a duel. You get 5 gems. Then you get stuff like activate a trap card. I mean, it doesn't get any easier. Destroy a card. Duel in a rank duel, activate a spell. These are all things that you start to unlock, and these are all extremely easy to do, as you can see here. Also, you have the unlimited missions, which are tons of different things that you could do. Activate traps, activate spells, and these basically take you a super long time to do unless you play absolutely every single day. But a lot of the limited time missions, if you just complete them every day, you can get roughly 100 gems at least a day. At least 100 gems a day. But if you play, for a full 2 hours, you can get about 200-300 gems every single day. Buy a couple packs, buy a couple decks, dismantle a few things. It's actually a fair system overall. Now, I have been almost entirely positive with this review, but we've got to talk about some of the negatives. So one of the negatives of this game I found is the Forbidden Limited List. Generally, the Forbidden Limited List is a little bit weird. You have this option, as you can see, that says Standard, but that is, at this point, the only possible thing. Now, the only thing that is weird about this ban list is it's basically an old OCG ban list. It's an OCG ban list from 2020, which is fine, but where in 2022, a lot of the cards that are in the OCG are not in this game. So you get a lot of weird situations. Like, for example, Dragoon is banned without any real reason for being banned, being that there are just stronger cards in the game than Dragoon. Like, for example, if we come over to this limited section, you've got things like True King of All Calamities, a card that is almost objectively better than Dragoon, as a lingering negate of monster effects. Despite that, this card is in this game. You have also cards like Verde Anaconda. This card is limited to 1. But what can you possibly summon off of Verde Anaconda? Phoenix Enforcer is not in the game. Dragoon is banned. What are we afraid of? Rainbow Neos? Why is this card limited to 1? There's a lot of very weird issues with the ban list that are just generally a little bit odd and a little bit jarring. Crystron Hacklet This is another card that, let's be honest, this card is not being played at more than 1 by anybody. So why is this card even at 1? A lot of the various ban list decisions here are extremely, extremely odd. Totally Awesome is another perfect example. Why is Totally Awesome limited to 1? There's so many stronger decks than Paleozoics or frogs. Why is this card limited to one? Who is scared of it? Why is it? All it does is just shut down a deck for no real reason. ABC Buster Dragon. This is not by any means a broken deck. There are much better decks than ABCs in this game. Why is this limited to one? Overall, I think the ban list could definitely use an overhaul. There are a lot of cards on here that are limited, that are banned, that are really limited and banned for no real reason. At the same time, there are cards that are perfectly legal, like Rongo Bongo, and that card is completely and totally legal. It's super broken, but despite that, it's here on this. It's not here on the ban list whatsoever. Semi-limited, huge semi-limited list, incredibly odd. A lot of these cards should pretty much go to 3. Cyframe Gamma is at 2, which is very, very weird. There's no side decking. Why is Mask Change 2 at 2? I don't know. Why is this at 2? It's been errated. There are a lot of things about the ban list that are extremely, extremely odd that could definitely be changed as soon as possible. And I think that's one of the weirder parts of the game. Now, my biggest issue with the game, by far, is the card list. Now, most of you are probably asking, like, what do you mean? What's wrong with the card list? I think there are tons of things that are wrong with the card list. It is extremely, extremely weird that we are basically, in most cases, 8 months behind the OCG, and we're basically at any given time 6 months behind the TCG. I think that is completely weird, that there are a lot of things that have released in the last few months that are not in the game. But outside of that, I think that there are a lot of cards that were released years ago. Like, for example, Blue Eyes Ultimate Alternative Dragon is not in the game. Why it's not in the game, I don't understand. Red Eyes Alternative Dragon is not in the game. Now, both of these cards were released in the 2019 Megaton in the same set as Nibiru and the same set as Dimensional Shifter. They came out, literally, they were promos in the exact same set. Now, despite that, for whatever reason, they are not in the game. I don't understand why. They're at this point 3 years old. Why are they not in the game? I don't understand. Now, the weirder thing is, you have things that haven't even come out yet in the TCG. Like, for example, on the screen here, we have Fossil cards. So Fossil is an archetype that was released in the OCG and the TCG, but there was a new wave of support that came out almost at this point 2 years ago in the OCG, never came out in the TCG. You have things like Flint Kragger and all of the new Fossil monsters, so stuff like this Machine Convoy. Some of these cards were never released in the TCG. They are still yet to be released in the TCG. Despite that, they are completely and totally legal in Master Duel. Why are they here? I'm not entirely sure. It's such an inconsistent situation where it's like you can play a deck on Master Duel and be like, wow, this is really cool. I'm going to try this in the TCG. Except you realize, whoops, it doesn't exist in the TCG. You could have stuff that's in the TCG, for example. You could go down to like your local card shop, open a pack, and be like, wow, this is really cool. I'm going to try it on Master Duel. Psych, not in the game. It's just not there. You can't play. It doesn't exist. What can you do? And I think that is extremely, extremely weird. The fact that they left out the last few sets is odd. Like, I don't understand why the new Blue Eyes and Dark Magician support is not in the game. I don't understand why Baron de Fleur is not in the game, considering the fact that it is in the same exact booster pack as Bird Call, which is in the game. So I find that incredibly, incredibly odd. I don't know what qualifies as a card that should be in the game, that isn't in the game. It doesn't seem like it's based on the amount of years that it's existed. It's almost like there's really no pattern to what is and isn't in the game. I'm not really sure how they selected some of this stuff, why certain cards that aren't even released yet are totally legal in Master Duel, while at the same time cards that have been in the game for years have somehow slipped through the cracks and haven't been placed in here. Stuff like, for example, things from the Cyber Dragon structure deck, the most recent one. That stuff's been out for months now. Why is that not in the game? I'm not really sure. But again, there's stuff that hasn't even come out yet that is completely and totally legal. You have stuff like Brothers of Legend. Stuff from Brothers of Legend came out after the structure deck, the new Cyber Dragon structure deck. But despite that, that stuff is in this game, the Brothers of Legend stuff. But the stuff from the Cyber Dragon structure deck is not in this game. It's kind of almost like a missed opportunity for cross promotion between the TCG and Master Duel when you have cards that are just missing from various areas. It almost creates like this game that is totally separate from anything. At the same time, you have the OCG, which basically doesn't suffer anything. The OCG is basically told, hey, this is a few months behind our current game, but it's no big deal. It's just a few months behind. But with the TCG, there's cards that aren't even released yet. We don't even know when we're going to get them, but despite that, we're kind of in this weird area here. So overall, my closing thoughts, honestly, Master Duel is pretty fun. It's a very, very good simulator. It is about as good as it's ever been. The quality is beautiful. The sound is beautiful. A lot of the things about this game are amazing. There are some inconsistencies, obviously, with card lists and stuff like that, but overall, Master Duel looks absolutely phenomenal. It looks beautiful. And hopefully they can fix some of the TCG and OCG and Master Duel differences so that we can have sort of a blended game. Honestly, if it was up to me, I would have the Master Duel be a lot like the modern dueling simulators, where when a card is announced, it's basically placed immediately into the game, and you can immediately start testing the card, trying the card out, seeing if it's good, seeing if it's bad. I think that would be a really, really cool aspect of the game, where a new Red Ice card, for example, can be announced, and an hour later it's available in the Red Ice pack, and I can go in there and I can spend my gems, and I can blow all my gems on the brand new beautiful Red Ice cards so that I can test them out as fast as possible, and I don't have to wait indefinitely until cards get released. That's something that's really cool about other card simulators, where a card gets released, a card gets announced, there's a ton of hype behind it, and everyone flocks to go try it out. That's something that's almost missing from this game. You can't go do that. You have to wait, again, indefinitely. Some cards are in here that haven't even come out yet. At the same time, there are cards that have come out and they're not in the game. So it's a little bit of a weird situation. Now, the other thing is, obviously, there are a lot of areas that are still empty in this game. We have an XYZ event coming up in a week, so we're going to see how that goes. That'll obviously factor in where this game goes. Overall, the game is actually pretty fun, and I'm going to continue to play it without a doubt. It's probably one of the most enjoyable Yu-Gi-Oh games that I've ever played. It doesn't just spam you with all this different stuff, and it's completely free to play. So you really can't complain too much about it. Obviously, I hope a lot of the issues that I cited do get fixed in some way. But overall, this has been actually a fantastic experience, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.